Hello and welcome to Bolshevik Bistro on Eastern Marshlands channel. Tonight I have a very special guest. It's Red Star Videos. Hello, Red Star. How's it going?
Hey, not bad. How you doing?
Doing quite well. This week we will be I called this episode "Oh Why Canada." To talk about, we're here to talk about Canadian politics, about some crazy stuff Canada has been doing for years concerning the. I would love to talk to you about the First Nation and the stuff that Canada has been doing with that. But before we get to the whole Canadian deal, don't know Canadian puns. This is a problem, dude.
Canadian puns?
Yeah, like puns about Canada, like Canadian stereotypes, because like you can't put hockey into much sentences, you know. And the maple syrup is also quite like a thing that you can't talk about a lot. You can always, like, when you talk about Belarus, you can always use potato. Like, this is a thing that we have. Our thing is potatoes.
No, isn't that more Latvia?
Well, I don't know, because we are literally called Bulbashi, which means potato people. Like, this is our local nickname. So I can't really see if Latvia we are the original potato people. So we will keep to this title. So before we start, I would like to first and foremost thank the patrons that support our channel. We love you. We got a lot of help after a lot of love after we launched our Patreon, and you're helping out tremendously. Thank you very much. Also, don't forget to support the Ukraine for Antifa. Our good friend Vanguard Marxist, who was on the show, they still need $150 to get the Zapatista coffee in California and give it out on protests, promoting Zapatistas, promoting Antifa. And
Nice.
It's really dope. They don't need a lot of money. All this money will go directly to Zapatistas and to buy some things like French press, two French presses, a table. But most of the money goes to buying coffee and distributing it. They will also get the tips at the protest when giving out the coffee. All the tips will be going directly to Zapatistas, to Chiapas, to build schools for children of Chiapas. Also, don't forget to tune in on 16th of September on our book club. We will be discussing the book Homage to Catalonia by George Orwell. The link to PDF is in the description. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube, to our SoundCloud, iTunes, whatever you watch, you listen to your podcast, or leave a like and share the video. On this note, hello, now I'm with you. I think I finished with all the things that I wanted to shout out. So how has been Canada doing?
Canada's been doing okay, not as bad as the US, but events that are going on there, of course, are always overflowing across the border onto us.
Yeah.
Not always as badly, but yep, it's always happening.
Yeah, you know, it's really, to start the discussion about Canadian politics, what I think we should start with is to first talk about main political groups that are in Canada. So, like, biggest political parties on the mainstream. So what you've got?
Well, we basically just have the big three: Conservatives, Liberals, and Social Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Social Democrats being the New Democratic Party.
Okay.
And
yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, fair, what do you call, disclosure. I am, as much as I don't usually admit it, I am a member of that party.
Oh, New Democrats.
Yeah.
Okay. And what are your, like, ideological affiliations? Like, how do you describe yourself ideologically?
Well, I just would call myself a Leninist right now, basically. Okay. But yeah, there's
basically. Are there Leninists in New Democracy? Are there Leninists in New Democratic Party? Or how?
Well, yeah, I was in the party first, and then joined like a Trotskyist party. Another thing I don't often admit to. While I was in it, and that got me into Marxism. So that's kind of how it's been.
Okay. Someone in the chat asked, what happened to old Democratic Party?
I don't know. It's well, the party used to be called something else, but Yeah.
Okay. And who's in charge right now? What party? Is
The
the Liberal
Liberals.
Party?
Yeah.
Okay.
With Trudeau.
Yeah, the Trudeau. Everybody has been like, America has a huge heart on Trudeau. And you hear a lot about Justin Trudeau from like most of my, because I mostly exist in American political dialogue and like mostly consume American media, and most of people that I talk to are American. So all I can see in American media about Justin Trudeau are two things. First is liberals just going crazy about him, just saying, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
he's so cute. He has unmatching socks. This is amazing. This is literally the best." I have no idea why fashion choices now determine your politics on one hand, and on the other hand, the right-wingers who literally claim that Justin Trudeau is the son of what's his face? Wait,
Pierre Elliott.
yes, no. They say that he looks exactly like not Che Guevara. Oh, Che Guevara. No, not Che Guevara. He looks like
Because Pierre Elliott was friends with Castro, but anyway.
yeah, Castro. They said that he looks like young Castro.
Oh, okay. Well,
And,
there
like,
might be a reason for that, but
yeah, and like, and all you hear is that basically those two things is like, wow, he's literally a legitimate son of a communist. He is a crypto communist even by his genes, and he is the most amazing person who has the best fashion choices. It's really hard to talk about his politics because nobody knows about his politics in America. What can you say about him? Like, since when was he in charge?
it was a couple of years ago now, I think,
Mhm.
that the election happened. Yeah. It was at the end of a long conservative era after they
Okay.
united the right-wing parties into one conservative party.
Oh. So it is like a huge breath of fresh air for liberals, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and how can you describe him? What is he? How did he show himself while he was in charge?
I guess you could kind of look at him sort of like a Canadian Obama, very flashy with the, I'm a young, hip, progressive kind of guy, but of course, not really delivering a whole lot in terms of policy. It's kind of just we're the the new neoliberals that aren't like these stuffy old these old conservative types. We're gonna bring you the same neoliberalism, same business as usual, but with a kind of a hip new look to it, I guess.
Oh, sure. And did people now realize, like, that he's not delivering anything?
Well, his term is still only a couple of years in now, but yeah, the one the one popular policy was the legalizing cannabis, and that's still supposedly on the way. It looks like he's actually going to deliver on that one.
Okay.
So that's an exciting one.
Well, that's something, but like from what I
Yeah.
know,
Others,
Canada has been
yeah.
like basically de facto legalized marijuana, but not de jure. Like nobody cared about marijuana, and people didn't even were persecuted for that for a very long time, from what I know. So it's
Right. Yeah.
basically just like they just now want to reinforce it, but it's not really much in terms of like legitimate like social and or economic
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. The other thing was the moving first past the post, which they completely abandoned. That was a huge letdown.
Mm-hmm.
Betrayal,
Can you
because they
explain that?
literally campaigned on it. First past the post. Okay, so
Because I
I
remember
guess
the scene in Victoria too. That was first past the post as like election thing, and I've heard it on media, and I tried to research it. I failed. I'm really stupid. Can you explain that to me?
so Canada is politically a Westminster kind of country, inherited from the British Parliament, right?
Right.
Functions the same way. You have ridings, and I guess it's kind of the same in the US and many other countries as well, but it starts to be an issue when there's multiple parties, which you don't have in the US, so it doesn't make much of a difference. But basically, whoever wins the biggest plurality within the the riding wins that seat, and then whoever
Okay.
wins the plurality of seats wins the government. But the problem with that is you could have millions of people voting for a smaller third party without any seats to show for it.
Oh, sure. It's similar to American system of
Yeah, it's kind of like gerrymandering.
Yeah.
If you don't have enough in one area, then you don't have anything at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I now understand it. And they wanted to abandon it, right?
Yeah, a lot of people want to move past it because, it would give more voice to smaller independent parties, smaller third parties. But what did they do? They sent out a survey saying, how should we do it? What should we do? Blah, blah, blah. And then they said, oh, well, the people didn't really react very well to the survey. They didn't really say much. So I guess people don't want it now.
Oh, really? So
Which
they
is
just
very
basically buggered off. Oh, that's not honest, intellectually. It's quite intellectually dishonest. It's like they basically said that, oh, this little survey was actually a referendum.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. Even though we ran on it, we came up with an excuse to abandon it, so we're going to do that now.
Oh my god, this is ridiculous. But what are the smaller political parties in Canada? And what are the communist representation? What about radical left?
Yeah, so going down from the top three, we have the Bloc Québécois, so that's a regional party for Quebec. Because, French people in an English country, there's still a sovereigntist movement.
Yeah.
And then we have a Green Party. So the Bloc Québécois.
Are they like French nationalists?
Are they what?
French nationalists? Quebecian nationalists?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they still have a bunch of seats, only in Quebec, of course. They used to be kind of social democrats. Now they're just kind of liberals, I guess. We have a Green Party. They have one seat out on the West Coast.
Okay.
And that's it for parliamentary parties.
Okay.
So it's basically pretty similar to Britain, I guess you could say.
What about radical leftist representation?
Yeah.
Like, what are the biggest ones? Because I'm pretty sure Canada is just swarmed with a bunch of radical left political parties. But what are the biggest players that we should keep an eye on?
Well, I mean, there's a pretty big step off from parliamentary parties and the Marxist parties. Some countries have an interesting mix, but here it's just doesn't really compare. It's apples to oranges. Okay, so where do I begin? So the first one, the oldest one, of course, is the Communist Party of Canada. I guess they're the biggest. I don't know. I guess they're probably similar to the Communist Party USA, but not nearly as opportunist. Right opportunists, of course. They don't openly try to enter into the Liberals or New Democrats. They actually run independently.
Okay.
Then there's.
By the way, they have a really beautiful flag. It's really dope. I've just googled the Communist Party of Canada flag, and it looks rather cool. Okay. It's quite modernist. I enjoy it.
Oh, it's with
they're Marxist-Leninist.
The gear and wheat, right?
Yeah, the gear and the and the sort of this
I
wheel
like that one too.
Yeah. So they're Marxist-Leninists, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then of course there's CPCML, which is it split during this Sino-Soviet split, so they're more Maoist oriented. And they're not quite as big as CPC, I think. Probably more active in Quebec. One thing you notice is that Quebec has a bigger left because I think it's just kind of part of the French culture. Leftism has always been a much bigger deal. It's always had a more bigger base. Certainly in France rather than England. So we kind of have a little bit of a recreation of that here.
Right.
Even socially, the Quebecois people seem to be more liberal, I guess,
Hmm.
more rebellious, you could say.
Nice.
Like when I went to Quebec for the student protests
Hmm.
a few years back, it got rowdy quite quickly. Like we had a march, and then the police tried to break it up pretty soon. It's like, geez, it was just a student
Was it
march.
big? Was it a big thing?
I came right at the tail end of it, but it was still pretty big. Yeah,
Yeah. And what was the protest about? What did you protest there?
it was about an attempt to raise the tuition fee, which was already lower than almost everywhere else in the country. But obviously, that's why, because students actually fought back.
Hmm. So your education is nationalized, so it's not private, right?
Yeah, I guess you could say it that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's similar
Yeah.
to how it works in the U.S.
So you have parts that are private, parts that are
Like
public.
the decent post-secondary schools are public, whatever public means. I'm not really sure. I mean, obviously there are private ownership and whatnot, but there are private schools, and there are ones that are regulated by the state more.
Oh, okay, okay, I get it. And the tuition was raised by the government. That was the point of it.
Yeah, provincially, yeah, they tried to raise it, and they had a big, massive student movement. This was
Yeah.
about 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay. And Did they manage to like discuss it with the student movements, or did they? What happened with it?
With the movement,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Um, I'm not sure how much of a decrease in tuition they eventually got, but what it did do is it actually brought down the liberal government. It brought on an early election.
Oh, really? This whole student thing?
Yeah.
Oh, really? So
So
you are basically responsible for Trudeau, partly,
no, no,
partially,
I mean provincially. It brought
provincially.
down it brought
Okay.
down the liberal government in Quebec that was already there.
I get it. I get it. Okay. Uh, Also, like people are asking there here in chat, what's the deal with the Wild Rose Party? And I googled it, and it shows up as like some Alberta party, from what I
Yeah.
get, and they have been dissolved on July
Yes,
24th. Like,
that's right.
and it says here that those guys are fiscally conservative, right-wing populist, direct democracy.
Yeah.
Like, what's up with it? Actually, the question there, I direct the question to you. What's up with the Wild Rose Party?
Okay, so Alberta is basically like the Texas of Canada.
Okay.
It's like this rural, conservative, oil-rich area,
Amazing. A
and they have a
place to be.
tradition of very long provincial administrations.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the longest was the Progressive Conservatives, which ran for so long that a bunch of right-wing people got tired of it and just formed their own party, which was more to the right.
Mm-hmm.
And then the oil, the price of oil plummeted. When was that? 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, so something like that.
I think this is the same thing that has affected Venezuela with the oil prices going down.
Yeah.
But basically, what happened in Alberta was the NDP stepped up to the game and said the
Mm-hmm.
PCs aren't serving you well. The oil price is going down. We're going to raise minimum wage. Most progressive platform that we've seen in Canadian electoral politics in kind of a while. Not saying much, but it was pretty decent, and it was enough to win the majority government.
Oh.
So replacing God knows how many years of the provincial conservatives. So the right took a look at itself after that and said, well, I guess that's the end of the Wild Rose Party. So now they're reuniting.
Okay. So that was so basically that was a quick reactionary like response to the oil crash. So they like went
Yeah,
more to the
the
right.
fact that they no longer exist is a is a reaction to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I get it. Interesting. It's fabulous. You have fabulous politics, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
What's like I have been hearing, because I'm following a bunch of people on Twitter that are from completely different political organizations from all over the world, basically. Sometimes, occasionally, I see something concerning something like mishandling of the situation with the First Nation in Australia. Well, in Australia, I'm sorry. Too much Australians lately in my life. In Canada, First Nation in Canada, I've seen some critique of Trudeau. I've seen some pictures of some protests that are happening. Uh, can you please give us like a historical, like what's up with the First Nation and how? I know some parts of the history. Can you please give a short rundown of how the relationship between the Canadian people and the First Nation has been going down for years, and what is happening to them now?
Oh boy, where do I even begin?
Like, start with somewhere around just the time when some maybe land expansion was going on, like with those kind of conflicts, or like was there military conflict against First Nation?
Yes, there was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the biggest examples of this was the Louis Riel's rebellion in the 19th century.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was called Upper River Rebellion. Don't quote me on it. Louis Riel's rebellion is what it's commonly known as. I went to Winnipeg, Manitoba as part of a trade union organizing drive, and we saw the statue of him. I thought that was pretty cool. But basically, Louis Riel was what's called a Métis person, kind of like a Canadian version of mestizo people. They are at some point they started intermarrying, so they're half French, half indigenous.
Oh yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. We call them métis in Russian, basically pronouncing every single letter in the word.
Oh, okay. So that's one of the earlier examples. I'm sure there's probably many more examples of skirmishes. Certainly in the past half century, indigenous peoples have been the only ones that have been willing to take up arms against the Canadian state, with the exception for a while of the FLQ.
Wow.
But yeah, it's mostly been the indigenous people. Lately, it's been mostly about like specific land issues,
like
disputes
what,
that go down, like disputes over specific parts of land that go back, many decades or centuries even. I made a video that had like a couple examples of them in it. Like the biggest probably in recent history was what's called the Oka Crisis, when the First Nations people of the Kanasataki village were living next to land that was purchased by a golf course, and they wanted to expand the golf course into land that they said was their sacred burial grounds.
Okay.
And they started barricading the roads to try to force them to stop. And they eventually had to call in the Sûreté Québec, the provincial police, and eventually the army, I believe.
Wow.
One of the Sûreté Québec officers was killed, probably by friendly fire, but yeah.
And so there is basically no legislation protecting them. So it was literally their land. It was a part of some area that was specifically claimed by them.
It was a dispute of some sort. I don't know the details, but
we see that it often happens. Like when basically in America, it's a common thing when basically private owners of something, whatever, like golf courses and whatnot, they just go down there and they just build stuff on the land without even asking. The biggest example in the latest memory is obviously the Dakota Access.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so like basically that's what they have been doing in America for the longest time, and
Yeah.
I see that Canada has been doing the same thing.
Yeah,
Okay,
for sure.
and are those? So you're saying that they have been taking up arms? So indigenous people are often armed during those kind of protests and
I wouldn't say
disputes.
often, but the fact that it's happened at all is notable for Canada.
Okay, yeah. And are they a part of their own thing? Are they anti-capitalist? Are they Are they leftist in any
Ooh.
way
Um,
possible?
I mean, I guess you could say they naturally do tend to be more towards that.
Hmm.
Just given the, the kind of traditions that they have and the way how they look at cultivation of the land and ownership and whatnot. Um, I don't know if
Hmm.
there's been any explicitly sort of leftist movements. I wish I was an expert on this. I'm kind of not, but
Yeah, no problem, no
yeah.
problem. Yeah, sure. But yeah, I understand that. Uh, I see that in the news there have been uh, saying like there was a recent article by Guardian where it said that there is a huge suicide epidemic in the Canada's First Nation. Like, let me open
Yes.
it. Like it says that suicide and self-harm of the leading is the leading cause of Indigenous Canadians up to death of Indigenous Canadians up to the age of 44. So it is young people who commit suicide.
Yeah.
Uh, it's really weird. Like, can you claim like what's um how can I say it correctly? Can you say that Canada is a sort of apartheid state where indigenous people are the second-class citizens? Are there examples of institutional racism that are like
Oh,
vibrant in Canadian society?
okay. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, to compare it to apartheid, I believe apartheid was inspired by the Canadian reserve system.
Oh, really?
To be quite honest with you, yeah, if you go back over the centuries, basically what happened was, they had their own version of manifest destiny when um, we have to create this great nation of Canada and build a railroad from east to west and clear out whoever might be in the way. And so we'll build these reserves for them. We'll build these boarding schools called residential schools, intentionally very far away from the reserves where the parents have to live, so that the children are essentially kidnapped from their parents
Right.
and forced into this sort of cultural genocide uh, institution that teaches them to stop being indigenous. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that has gone on up to uh, fairly recently, I think, the 1960s,
Oh, really?
where it finally stopped. And even then, in the 60s, we had the 60s scoop, where the Children's Aid Society or whatever it was started taking children from their parents for, I guess, spurious reasons, whatever reason
Mm-hmm.
they can think of, to give them to white parents to teach them to be, good Canadians, not Indigenous anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So the people have described it as cultural genocide, and that's a pretty
Right.
accurate way of putting it. It is so it's basically the corollary of the Australian stolen generation, and the reserves continue up until this day. The reserves still exist. Many of them are just often described as third world living conditions.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest scandals that sparked for the first time in a while, an actual national indigenous movement was the case of, what is it called? Attawapiskat. which was a reserve all the way up on the northern end of Ontario, way up there, freezing cold, exorbitant prices just to get anything there, and just squalor, just total squalor. And
Wow.
it became a crisis when there was, I don't know if it was the suicides or whatever it was, but it became a crisis and became a huge scandal where the chief of the band, Teresa Spencer, did a march to Ottawa and a hunger strike to try to get her grievances redressed. You never remember what the ending of all these things is, because it tends to get kind of complicated when they start, trying to resolve it. But
Yeah,
these are the things that stick out, at least.
it's actually a good point, because often when there is a huge issue, it reminds me of how in Belarus, a good example is one of the biggest Belarusian protests. It was when the government decided to raise prices on gasoline, and make it twice the amount it was before. Like, increase it like 100%. And basically, there was a huge eruption of protests. People basically stopped in the middle of the road in the rush hour to protest, and it was widespread all over the country. And what happened next is basically government said, okay, we get it. We won't do this. We won't raise prices that much. And all this discussion was behind the closed doors. Nobody was ever invited anywhere. And they basically did the same thing they did, but did it over the span of 1 year. The prices still rose, but they did it later.
Oh, of course, yeah.
For a bit. Like the same thing with many things concerning bigger problems than just
Actually,
prices on gasoline.
Now that you described that, I think that's basically what happened with the student strike in Quebec. They kind of just did it more slowly.
Yeah, this is what they always do, and they hide it as if they're like, oh yeah, we're communicating, because that's how bourgeois democracy works. They just or they swarm the thing with a bunch of bureaucrats, and bureaucrats deal with it. They just tell you to address this bureaucrat, who sends you over to that bureaucrat, and basically you just get swarmed in. You just with all the papers, and it just falls apart.
Right.
But yeah. I have a question about we had a very just a very sad moment. Maybe there will be another very sad moment. That's very depressing. This is one of the most depressing streams I've ever had.
Oh geez.
It's just sadness. I'd like to ask you about truth and reconciliation process.
Right.
It's, from what I know, it is a thing that was created to sort of make it bring back reestablish the community, accept what has been going on, and to get on with it. Face the problems, face them directly, and try to fix what was broken. Can you tell me, from your knowledge, how successful was it, and what is it still going on? Is it finished? What is truth and reconciliation process?
I don't know a whole lot about it. I believe it is still going on, and it's kind of hard to follow all the details, but there have been complaints about it. People, the indigenous activists, saying that the state isn't taking it seriously, that they're not doing enough and whatnot. But I don't know how much I can really speak on it.
Right.
But yeah, I believe it's still going on.
Okay, I get it. And what's the main point of this whole deal? What are they doing exactly? Do you know? Do you have any knowledge on that?
I think the residential schools in 60 Scoop and whatnot are probably one of the bigger issues. So redressing grievances from the survivors of the schools, right, and the state-sanctioned kidnappings. Yeah.
That's crazy. When you say it, state sanctioned kidnappings.
I'm being a little rhetorical, but that's basically what it was.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it sounded something. So it sounded nice when they did it. Yeah,
it was. I don't think it was even really a conscious campaign of anything. It was kind of just happened.
Right, right. Well, from social issues, let's move on to economic issues, I guess. From what, to my knowledge, Canadian economy is really closely related to American. If
Right.
something goes down in America, it happens in Canada as well. Like there have been many talks about, like I've heard, like people in chat I mentioned as well, that some people are considering a sort of North American Union or even Canada joining, like becoming parts of United States economic or political system.
Oh,
How do
okay.
you see it? Like, is there a lot of talks about it? And like, how do you see your Canadian relationship with America? And how, like, let's start with this part.
Well, I mean, the idea has been floated before, of course, ever since NAFTA, at least.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if there's any future traction for that with the U.S. and the economic populism that's going on with Trump supposedly renegotiating NAFTA
Yeah,
to
actually,
benefit.
yeah, he actually
Yeah,
did it while running on the program against it,
right.
which is amazing. Uh, then the question to me is like, what is the main what are the main points to remember when talking about Canadian economy? Because it's really hard for me to imagine what is Canadian manufacturing is. Because in my eyes, it's just Yukon. Because I've seen this one documentary on Discovery Channel.
Yeah.
But what's Canadian economics based on mostly? Is it exports to America? What is it?
Well, we're obviously pretty import heavy, just like the U.S., since a lot
Hmm.
of manufacturing jobs have been outsourced, just like them.
Right.
But you know, we have our softwood lumber, we have the oil in Alberta.
Hmm.
That's uh, that's pretty often a point of contention for a number of reasons.
Okay. All right. I guess I get it. So you're basically doing the same thing as any first world country does now,
Yeah,
exporting jobs and impoverishing the minorities.
sure. Yeah.
That's the classic thing to do. Oh, by the way, I forgot to ask this question. Can you describe, if you have knowledge of that, what is the nature of those reservations you were talking about? Or did you use another word? Enclosure? Not enclosure.
Reservations. Yeah.
Yeah, it's reservation. Uh, people are not allowed to leave it, or is it the tribes that don't allow to hold land anywhere else? Like, do they? How does it work?
Oh, they're allowed to leave it.
Right.
It was at some point they weren't, but they are now. But if they leave it, they generally can't come back anymore.
Why?
That's well, it's more of an in-group sort of stigma sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but of course
And
they can leave it, and I would think that many of them seek to do that. Many of them do that because of the conditions in there.
mhm, I get it. And basically, government does nothing to have to help out the people in those reservations, and so it just basically destroys the community, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're always saying that the government isn't doing enough, and you can see evidence of that just looking at these places, hearing from the people.
Okay, I get it. Oh, what do you think could be the future of Canadian politics? Like, do you see any changes that could be brought to Canada? Are there any grassroots movements that are seeking to improve the situation, the economic situation, and the social situation? Like, what do you if you think about future of Canada, what do you think about?
I don't know. Well, there was the Idle No More movement that I was describing earlier. That was for the Indigenous people as a result of the poor conditions in the Attawapiskat Reserve. Um,
Hmm.
I guess that sort of fizzled out over the past few years. Um, and the student movement, that was the other big one. Other than that, not too sure. Can't
So
think of
most of those movements that you mentioned, they basically fell apart from when the time came.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. And how engaged are Canadians in politics?
It's kind of hard to have like a very vibrant, massive political scene when it's a few countries spread out, a few cities spread out over hundreds and even thousands of kilometers.
Mm-hmm.
So not a whole lot, and I think that's part of the reason why it's only a few big parties that dominate the whole
Right.
thing.
Okay, I get it. Oh, what else shouldn't we? Are there any things that we haven't talked about yet? And what you think we should talk about? Because you described the
Yeah.
situation quite perfectly,
Oh,
but
thanks.
yeah, but the question is, um, are there any challenges that Canada will be facing soon that you think about? Because we see that in America, Trump's policy will result in a huge, maybe in his, even during his term, maybe during the next president's term, and so it could be like in 8 years or in 10 years. His current policy that benefits the richest and the most powerful. Um, while again maintaining some sort of populism, trying to do that will result in a huge economic crash somewhere, like in one of the spheres. It will just fall apart. Do you think that this could be a very big bad news the for Canada, or other like bubbles boiling up in
Oh,
Canada,
okay.
Canadian economy somewhere?
Now that you mention it, we do have a real estate bubble.
Okay.
In the city where I'm near, Toronto, I drive into the city, I can see condos constantly going up. I'm talking about condominium buildings,
Okay.
huge residential skyscrapers that they build right along Lake Ontario. There's more and more always going up, and it's just a race for more and more of them to sell to whoever will buy it. Hopefully, there will be enough people to buy it for them.
Oh yeah.
And
Because
just
when it's my land, yeah.
and the property value is really skyrocketing. It's really difficult to live inside the city.
Okay.
And the buildings are, there was some stories a while back about these new buildings having their windows held up by glue, and the windows were falling down and hitting people.
Oh no. So it's basically they are rushing to make them because they
Yeah,
all understand that it will just fall apart soon and they need to sell it as fast as possible.
yeah. So it certainly looks a lot like a bubble.
Oh god, this is terrible.
Yeah.
Also, chat keeps asking me to ask you about Jason and Rue.
Okay,
They
what
want
about
to
him?
ask about Jason and Rue. No, the chat literally just said, please talk about Jason and Rue. Jason and Rue. Canadian
Okay.
Marxist-Lenin state under Rue? Yeah, good question. Canadian Marxist-Lenin state under Rue?
Yeah, I don't know. What about him?
I don't know. How about making him the leader of Canada?
Oh god. Well, I guess he'd be a step up from Trudeau.
Maybe. Yeah. What's your opinion on Jason?
Well, I've been watching his videos for a while now,
Uh-huh.
longer than any other leftist YouTuber, at least. Since, he's a big game here. I mean,
Yeah, he is.
not just in Canada, but for he's a big #1 Marxist YouTuber. So you kind of have to
Yeah.
respect that. I don't agree with him on everything, but the fact that he's out there on a regular basis, pumping out videos all the time.
Yeah,
Decent, I think.
he's really cool. Yeah, we all are Maoist, Unruism, Vanguardist, Worldist in our hearts.
Yeah.
We all are. It's really nice. And by the way, also an important question to ask: how do you like in 12 years? Do you see yourself joining Senable's Vanguard when in his invasion of Canada?
Oh yeah, Comrade Cenable. He's the other He's our other
He's not
crown
Canadian,
jewel.
from what I know. From what I know, he's not Canadian. From what I've heard, he is Canadian American or something. He lives in America while he is from Canada or something like that. So he like lives in
Oh,
somewhere around Wyoming or something like that, and um, basically he said in 12 years he'll create an army, and he will invade Canada, and he will separate, like the central part of Canada will be completely separated from other parts, and he will
what?
establish socialism there. This is a very rough sketch of a plan, but I'm pretty sure that you should prepare yourself and arm yourself, because Comrade Zenable will destroy Jason Unruh and establish one
Yeah,
true party in charge of Canada.
I hope so.
We all
I
hope
hope
so.
so. He subscribed to me, so
Oh, really? That's cool.
yeah.
He's not yet subscribed to me, but I talked to him
No.
in chat somewhere. Shout
Oh,
out to
cool.
Wozniak server on Discord. This is the most cancerous server ever. It
Oh,
is basically created for Wozniak to debate 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds reactionaries,
yeah.
which are prominent on YouTube for some reason, which is weird. Also, chat is asking about bagged milk propaganda or something.
But
Bagged milk, something like that. Do
oh,
you know what they're talking about?
the fact that we buy our milk in bags rather than jugs, I think.
Oh, this is
It's another little.
little
A lot of
meme.
a lot of Canadian memes or stereotypes or whatever are about the one tiny little thing that makes us different from the US. So yeah.
Okay, this is weird because we in Belarus we don't use we don't use jugs, not even bags. We use Tetra packs.
Oh, Tetra Packs.
Yeah, we
Okay.
have Tetra packs of milk. So I guess we are in this battle of minds now. Oh,
So
okay.
milk
Is that
jug
all?
and Tetra Pak.
Yeah. Is that all that we should talk about, or is there something else? I guess I'm not really sure. What about? Oh yeah, good question to actually to end on. What's your opinion on YouTube layout? New one. Do you
Oh,
like the new YouTube layout?
this is a brand new thing. I've only seen a little bit of it. What exactly have they changed so far now?
Oh, it's really hard.
I
They've
know.
changed the page, your like the channel page. It is now really like more borderless, and like with bigger images and whatnot. And they also added a messenger.
A messenger.
It's like now it's not on the. I've seen it on my phone. Basically, what's
Yeah.
the point of it is that you can send videos to your friends in chat that is on YouTube.
Send. Oh, okay. Oh, they've been trying to roll that out on mobile, I think.
Yeah,
Whenever
it's
you try
like
to
it's
share a
out.
video, it says share it with one of your. I'm like, what? No, what?
It's
What are you
really
talking
weird
about?
because it doesn't synchronize with anything. It wants to synchronize with like your phone book, but I don't have phones of anyone that like I talk to on the internet on a regular that are on YouTube. Like most of the people in real life don't use YouTube for some reason. That people that I talk to, and the people that do don't like put their phone in their Google account.
I just don't get it. Like the share button is supposed to be universal. You click share, you get a number of social media platforms, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
what do you? Why do you need to
Now it's
change
not.
that? I
Now it
don't get
tries
it.
to force it like its own its own thing on us.
Yeah.
Well, at least some people say that the logo is disgusting. The new one, they have a new
It's
logo
okay.
thing. I like it. It's okay.
Yeah.
So I have quite positive outlook on it generally overall. Yeah. Also, for people asking about possible Canadian Hawaii,
What?
possible Canadian Hawaii. You should like. I'm not really sure whether they're proposing to invade Hawaii. Only bro 555,
Oh, or to get our own island?
or get your own island. Yeah. What's your opinion on that?
I think that's been talked about before. I don't remember what the island was though.
Really? Is it? It's not a joke. It's legit.
Well, I mean, not that much, but what island
Okay.
was it? No, I don't remember.
And was it a long time ago? They really wanted to purchase an island or something?
No, it was never really serious. So
Oh,
I
okay. Thank
honestly
God.
don't remember.
Yeah. Also, people are asking about whether you will have another anarchist versus Marxist debate. Are you
Yes.
planning that? Oh, really? Tell us more.
Well, we just need an anarchist that's willing, that's able and willing to do it. Sure.
Oh, really? And you have already Marxists? Is it?
Yeah,
Will it
me.
be five on? Oh, it will be 1-on-1.
Sure, if they want. If anyone wants to debate me on anything, they just
Oh,
make
that's dope.
a video where you make your point well, and I can see you can argue with it, and then I'll agree to do it. That's my only criteria. I don't think that's too strict or anything.
Socialism and barbarism now in chat. He said that he will do it.
Okay.
So what's the point? He should make a video stating his point, and you will start a back and forward.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
is it a
I've
stream?
seen his videos before. I think I'd be willing to just accept it.
Oh, dope. So will it be on stream, or you're saying that it should be like back and forth making videos?
No. We can do a live debate.
Oh, dope. Nice. Okay, people are asking now a question. Me, are there any Nazbols in Belarus? Yeah, we have Nazbols, and Nazbol Party of Belarus doesn't believe Belarus is a nation, and we should come back to Russia. So yeah, this is basically Nazbol. But I will I think I will be on another podcast as a guest. I can't confirm it just yet because we haven't figured it out completely. But if I will be, we will be discussing Nazbols in Asia, and you will be shocked. I can say already that National Bolshevism is a legit political ideology in Russia.
Oh God.
It's legit, and they even as any respectful political party, they have a split. They have a split, and they one of the people are questioning the leadership of the current party leader of Russian Nazbol party, where they claim that he went away from the ideals of National Bolshevism and he accepted Western degenerate liberalism.
Oh, I think I heard
Too much.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and they basically split away from them, and now they are different. There is a split in the party. It's pretty dope. It's pretty ridiculous because they literally claim that their main philosophical basis is Strasser, Nietzsche, and some other dudes. And I'm like, what the fuck Nietzsche is doing there?
Yeah, what about the original National Bolshevik movement in Germany in the Weimar period? Nobody ever mentions that one. That was probably has nothing to do with the Russian one, but it was called National Bolshevism.
Yeah, it's really weird. And those guys are completely different from anything. They are basically like, oh, West is degrading us. Like, while in America, they say that, oh, look at this, our European identity is challenged by cultural Marxism. In the East, in Russia, they say, oh, look, our Russian identity is challenged by Western liberalism. So it's a huge sort of clusterfuck of influences. Everybody is degenerating everyone, while the economy is destroying itself. This is basically that's basically it. I'm pretty happy to know that you will have a nice debate. It's pretty dope that you will have it. I will be sticking around for this.
Okay.
It will be super dope. I think that's it. I don't have any more questions to you. Do you have any questions?
No, I'm good.
Dope. So everybody, thank you for sticking around. You should definitely subscribe to Red Star videos. He is a he's an amazing dude, huge friend. I was on Red Star videos talking about Syria some time ago. Again, thank you for having me on this. It was really fun.
Yeah.
And I guess that's it. Thank you. Is there anything else that we should promote? You have a Patreon. Go give him some money.
Yeah.
Yeah, give Red Star some money. And give us some money if you want to. Links are in the description. On this note, I'd like to thank everybody for listening to us. It was really fun to talk to you, Red Star. And
thanks.
People, we will see you tomorrow. And when uploads, we have daily uploads now, almost.
Oh, wow.
This is weird. We have like 6 videos a week or even 7 videos a week. Yeah, it's really crazy. Okay, people. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.